And
You
then
got the third edition cover up there though.
no way.
You do.
Daggone it. It's staying up there for now.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I don't
fine.
have the
It's
time.
fine.
I don't have the time to fix it right now. I looked at it. I was like, oh, that's the right one. Like we're good. All right. So we are published on the Patreon and we are live
Nice.
streaming at this point. And
Cool, cool.
I will make a note in the chat. Wrong cover. No, I won't do that. We'll see. We'll see if anybody notices. All right. I think I am ready to rock and roll when you are.
All right. Just I guess for the pro show, I went to the Content Entrepreneur Expo last week in
Okay.
Cleveland.
Okay.
Do you want to chat about that?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I have no idea what that is, so that sounds really interesting.
Okay. Let me just grab one other link. Um, okay, where
While you're grabbing that link,
it's in my newsletter
I
today.
will describe to you the conundrum that I have every fall when the academic semester starts.
Okay.
And that conundrum is the fact that I like basically blow up my entire task management and note taking world,
Mm.
and then I try to refigure out what it should be. And let's just say, Mike, I'm struggling right now.
Uh,
I am struggling right
well, I
now.
mean, we could talk about that for the pro show. I
No,
mean, I'm
no, no.
always good for a note-taking existential crisis.
Oh, I mean, you want to talk, but the problem is we could talk about it and we could resolve it and it would be beautiful and amazing, and it's just gonna be the same thing in August of next year. It's gonna be the exact same thing in August, so there's no point.
Okay. All right, we'll
There's
skip it then.
yeah, there's no point. All right, so I just got a link from you.
Yep.
I see said link. Oh my goodness, are we posting the newsletter um on LinkedIn now? Have we been doing that for a while?
No, this isn't actually the newsletter. I just
Uh,
linked to this in the newsletter. The newsletter is 2,000 words about building
yeah.
a book library in Obsidian with Faces.
Can we talk about your newsletter for a second? I was reading it. You know, sometimes I can read it right like live, and then sometimes I have to wait. You know, until
Yeah.
a week later or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm reading it, and I'm thinking to myself, Mike, this is like 3 newsletters. Like you know, like your one newsletter post is like really long.
That,
Is that
yeah,
good? Do you want that to be that way?
I have no idea, but I don't know how to not be that way.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
I've asked my audience, do you prefer if I just provide like a short summary in the actual email with a
Yeah.
link to the full post? And most people said they would just read it in the email or they didn't care.
Okay.
I think I had one person who was like, actually, that would be kind of nice not to have all of that in the email.
Well,
But the vast majority were like, no, I read it there.
and
It's cool.
hopefully that didn't come across as you're writing too much or I think you're doing too much. What I thought is
No,
that's
we are on the
multiple.
same
Okay.
wavelength. It is getting harder and harder for me to send every week, but it's me.
Yeah. Okay.
It's also the seeds of my YouTube
Yeah.
scripts,
Yeah.
so it's not like I'm repurposing it. I mean, that's not. I don't just take that and do the script, but that's basically like my brain is moving in that direction now. So maybe 50% of the script writing is done by the time I send that newsletter. So I I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah. My worry was more your like time and attention because I was like, man, he's writing a lot for that Monday newsletter. Could he split that up and make that into two things, and then he has one less thing to do, or you know, one less thing to do every other week, kind of a thing.
Well, just go tell all your friends. I mean, if I get a bunch of email signups, it's worth it, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. Um, yeah, I think we're good then. We should probably get rolling
Yep.
because even though it is Labor Day,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of work to do. So
Yep. Yeah. Labor Day for the independent creator means you labor all day.
it's true. Before soccer practice.
Yep. Yep. I started coaching football on Tuesdays now, so our Tuesdays are crazy town as well.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
You count it down.
Let's Yeah, let's count down. I did hit record on Zoom. Okay, so we got that backup going. That's there. That's there. Oh, I need to add this.
You know, one of the benefits of the um, live stream too is if we ever had to, I mean, we could always just rip the audio off of there. It would not be the
That
high.
is true.
It would
Yep.
not be the highest quality, but it's like a second backup for us.
Yep. All right. Sorry, I'm not quite ready. Gotta grab one more link.
I'll forgive you
Okay.
this time.
Okay. So you can't. Well, it's okay. We'll just put that in there. Just if you look at that link, that's not actually correct.
Where'd you send it to? Which one did you send it to?
It's in the outline
Oh, okay.
for a follow up.
Okay.
It's not actually part of follow up, but
Got it.
sort of, kind of, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, still feel a little bit scrambled, but I think we have everything and we can get rolling. So, ready to count down?
I am ready to count down.
All right. So, 3, 2, 1. All right.
Good to go.
Wait, audio hijack is beach balling. I mean, this is normal for audio hijack.
Did I tell you about?
It'll eventually kick in and be working fine, and we'll be fine the rest of the episode. But before we get rolling, I want to actually see the numbers change.
Yeah, and will it catch up or will we have to
It's
stop and
probably
restart?
recording right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, there we go. Okay, 27 seconds in.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. We're good. So Audio Hijack's been doing a weird thing for me too lately. Just as a side note, it's been breaking my recording up. Like it'll just randomly start a new recording.
Mm, there must be a like file size limit or something.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
where that would be in the settings, but
Settings.
that's where I would look.
All right.
All right. Well, let's record a podcast.
Let us record a podcast.
All right. So I went to the Content Entrepreneurs Expo last week, Cory, and it was a good time in Cleveland. You should totally come next year.
You invite me to all of these things, right? And I need to start coming to some of them at some point here, don't I? I mean,
Yeah, you do.
was it Content Entrepreneurs Expo?
Yeah, it's the website. I'm not sure if it's still up. It was cex.events,
Yeah, it's still.
and it was put on by well, I know who the main sponsor was. It was Tilt Publishing or Lulu.
Okay.
They're like a self-publishing house, so probably we'll talk about them a lot in the next book that you picked.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was interesting because there's a lot of creators who are there, not just like internet creators. There's some people who have written a whole bunch of books and people who've been creating in some way, shape, or form, writers for a very long time. But yeah, so some of my peeps there. I saw Jay Klaus, Chanel Basilio. They both presented and also got to attend a lab dinner the night before.
Okay.
So flew in on Sunday. The conference started on Monday, but Jay had organized this dinner for everybody that's in the lab. So that was a lot of fun, and I learned a ton. Probably the most important thing that came from this conference is that I know exactly what book I am going to write.
Oh, okay. That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Are you willing to share about it? I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you willing to share about it, or would you rather keep it under wraps for a little bit?
No, I can. So I shared a link with you to a LinkedIn post that I did where I took all of the sketch notes that I took
Mhm.
and shared those in a carousel, and then just had like a bullet list of the talks and like my big takeaways from those.
Mhm.
So one of the people on that list, Fernando Labastida, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, and I apologize for that, but he gave this great talk on owning the vocabulary
Okay.
and mentioned a lot of stuff from like Category Pirates, which is the folks behind Ship 30 for 30. And so some of it I had heard before, but he presented it in a way where it like kind of finally clicked for me.
Okay.
And he's talking about, writing a book to kind of plant your flag. Like, this is the word that I'm going to own. And if you can own the word, basically you own the market. So an example would be, Tiago Forte owns the term second brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's defined what second brain means. And I know what that word is for me.
Okay. Very cool.
The difficult part for me is that it's not directly related to all the stuff that I do for Practical PCAM. It's kind of tangentially related.
Okay.
So I guess spoiler alert, it's personal retreats. I am going to write the
Ah,
book on personal retreats.
very cool.
And I've been talking about this for a while. Other people have talked about different versions of this. If you just do an online search though for a personal retreat, you're not going to find a whole lot, at least in the vein of the way that I talk about it. You'll see some stuff on like your own personal spiritual retreat and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got this very specific format, that I follow,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been talking about that for years. If you do Amazon search for like personal retreat, there's no books really that are it's low hanging fruit basically for me. Like
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot. It's right there. And like I said, the hard part for me is practical PKM. I'm not talking about personal retreats all the time
Yeah.
there. And I don't really want to be the person who all they do is talk about personal retreats all day,
Mm-hmm.
every day. So I don't really want to become, I guess, the personal retreat guy. But I do think that that is the term I can own, and it is something that I have thought about for a long time. I ran a poll for my newsletter audience maybe a month ago, and asked, out of these three ideas, which book are you most interested in? And 50% of well, almost 50%, is like 47%, said the personal retreat book. So it's the one that everybody wants me to write. And yeah, I'm gonna write it. The book that we're gonna cover next time that you picked out is gonna be interesting because the only like variable at this point is it gonna be a self-published book, or am I actually gonna try to get a book deal? And I
Yeah.
think I'm leaning towards self-published just based on some conversations that I had at CEX. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, if that's all that came out of the conference, it was probably worth it for me. But there were tons and tons of great sessions, so
Yeah.
can highly recommend it.
That's outstanding. Like, I mean, and I've never thought about kind of owning a space and defining it by like a word or a phrase. But as you're talking, I'm just rolling through my head about like the people I know that, essentially own a space. And I'm like, oh, wow, that actually works really, really well. Like you think about it and you associate them with an idea or them with a concept or them with a word. And I was like, man, that's a really interesting way to frame it. Like that, I mean, can I make that an action item? Right? Like can like that be, it has nothing to do with our book from today,
Me
but
write
it's
the
like
book, or
no,
what?
no, the action item is like what's my word? Like what word do I want to own?
Yeah,
It's like that has nothing to do with the book, but I need to make that an action item for me. Is like what's my word? What's the word I want to own as a
yeah, and the thing is, like, once you own a word, it's not like you have to just talk about that thing
Mhm.
for the rest of your life, but you got to start somewhere too, right? So I started my creator journey by self-publishing a book on Amazon that's no longer available, so don't go try to buy it. Take it down. But it's I have not after that I basically just didn't write in that format anymore.
Yeah.
So um kind of back to my roots, I guess. I've seen some people share some different framing for forcing yourself to write the book, like these 30-day challenges.
Hmm.
I probably will try to do something like that. But yeah, it's it's gonna be it's gonna be fun actually writing a book about personal retreats and being able to point to it and like have something that I could give people. I've got the video course, but I feel like there's more credibility with a book.
I hate that, but I think you're right. And the reason why I hate that is because I've heard a bunch of people, or I've talked to a bunch of people that write books, and these aren't the people where the book goes like wildly successful and now they're speaking at every conference that's ever existed, and making a boatload of money off of speaking gigs, and like their newsletters 1 million people and all that stuff. These are the people who have like just written the normal book that like a reasonable number of people find good and find interesting, and they're kind of like, yeah, like it was a slog. Like I'm glad I wrote it, but man, it was not fun. And then like it hasn't been this like monster success. And I think it's the whole microwave society where like my microwave brain wants to go like, oh, if I write this thing, like I want it to blow up. That way, it's the launch pad for all this stuff, and it's just not reality. Like I don't think that's going to happen. Like if I write a book, I think it's going to do okay because I think I'm going to make a good product, or else I wouldn't do it. But I think it's going to have like lukewarm to like moderate success, and I don't know. That just kind of the pride in me, whatever you want to call it, like the whether it's pride or whether it's the fact that I want to jumpstart something bigger, just kind of is like womp womp. Like that's how I kind of feel about it.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I just read for a Gap book, Write Useful Books by Rob
Uh huh.
Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
And I didn't realize this when I picked that as a Gap book, but he's written a couple other books that I own. And he shared a lot of his launch numbers, and he self-published his books, I believe, at least a couple of them. And the way he framed it is when you have a book that you've written that's good, you got to get lucky if you're going to hit the
Mm-hmm.
bestsellers list.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to get lucky for it to be a valuable business asset.
Yeah.
And he showed how, like, because his books are actually helpful, people will recommend them via word of mouth. And so you kind of see like the slow burn of the book. And that's the other thing is, a lot of stuff that I talk about is software related, Obsidian related. Obsidian changes every week.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to make something evergreen, personal retreats is probably the
Yeah.
better topic, or something along, some framework that's not kind of tool agnostic, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Oh, I'm excited for you. Okay, so based on the books that we've been reading lately, particularly the one we read for this episode and then the one we read last time, what's your timeline on that, Mike? You have to put some rubber to the road right now. Are you trying to publish this thing in 25, 26, 27, 30? Like where's your head at on when you're trying
Yeah,
to do it?
I knew you were going to ask me this.
Yeah.
I don't know. So my thought is that November is National Novel
Mm-hmm.
Writing Month,
Mm-hmm.
NaNoWriMo,
Mm-hmm.
and I do not want to write a novel. But as I was thinking through, writing your book in 30 days, maybe I could create some sort of like writing challenge inside of the library
Mm-hmm.
for people to join if they wanted to. And at the very least, I could write the first draft of that book in the month of November.
Okay.
I don't know if that's quick enough to get it out by the end of the year. I think I would like to get it out by the end of the year. And I think it's also possible, depending on what else I decide I'm going to do before then,
Yeah.
to get it done prior to November. So we'll see. That's kind of a fallback plan, I feel. But yeah, I do want to get it out this year if I can. I feel like it's one of those things where the overthinker perfectionist in me could take 5 years to write this,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to move fast and break things.
I think book two is your 3 to 5 year book. Book one, like
Maybe.
let's hammer this thing, right? Like
Yeah.
that was my gut too. Is I was like, let's get this thing done. And I'm not saying by any means skimp on quality, but what I am saying is, get it done and get those words on paper and get it out in front of an audience. I think the time is ripe for where everything else is in your creator business too, to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Oh man, that's cool. I want to think about my word. I've got two that are like floating to the top. And the funny thing is, like in true fashion, in true me fashion, they are nowhere near close to each other. Like one is here and the other one is completely in left field, and I'm like, man, my brain would do that. It's like, but then again, I have to think about like, what do you want to be known for? When you want to be the
Yeah.
guy who's known for a thing. I do have another.
Yeah.
I might save this for our next episode, but for the pro show, Katie and I developed a legitimate like for the first time in my life, I think this is like a legitimate YouTube channel that I think has legs that I think could
Nice.
absolutely I won't say blow up. Like I don't think it's going to be a million subscriber thing, but I think it could definitely be like a tens of thousands, hundreds of thousand subscriber thing. And it's the first time I've ever had one of those. And then it's the other thing is the first time Katie's ever gone, huh, that one actually that would actually make sense. Like I think that one would work. Usually she just kind of laughs and she's like, "Oh," so
Poor little nerd.
yeah, poor
I know that laugh.
poor little nerd trying to make your stuff on the internet. You know, no.
Well, I've been publishing to YouTube consistently, and I have not had a viral hit, but I have grown quite a bit in the last month. So we're recording this September 1st, and I think I shared previously I was doing this experiment where not only am I publishing weekly for my channel, but I've been publishing a short every day
Hmm.
through the whole month of August. And I can share some final numbers here if you are
Oh,
interested.
very much so.
Okay, so the total views 74.3 thousand, which is 37.8 thousand more than usual.
Nice.
So almost double.
Yeah.
Actually, that is double. And there's a whole bunch of shorts. I'm basically, in addition to the 4 weekly videos, I think that's four, right? One, two, three, four. Yeah. I published a short, 31 different shorts. So that's kind of to be expected. But the shorts are short. They're like 30 seconds.
Hmm.
So the average view time for those isn't going to be that much higher. So the watch time overall for this month was 3,021 hours. And that is 821 hours more than usual. So that's up 25%
Hmm.
ish.
Hmm.
And I think that's actually pretty good. That's a little bit more than I anticipated it would be, because with the shorts, you are deciding within the first couple seconds whether you like it and you're gonna stay or you're gonna swipe away. And I'd never published a short before, so I had no idea how to make a good short.
Yeah.
I still feel like I don't really know why one pops off and one doesn't. Um, 525 subscribers, so that's 155 more than usual.
Mm.
And all of my shorts, I should mention, point back to longer form
Yeah.
videos. But there's not a whole lot of people following those to the longer form videos, I think. So
And are they all new, like newly created shorts, or are they clips of your longer videos that you've turned
they're
into a
all
short?
clips from the longer
Okay.
videos. I used Opus to create them and then tweak them so they actually made sense
Okay.
and showed the right things.
Yeah, great.
And then AdSense was $168. So that's about $38 more than usual.
Hmm.
And that I feel like has kind of been a little bit of a late growth. Like if you look at the chart for that one, it's just kind of flat for the first, I don't know, 10 to 15 days, and then it starts to go up. So I'm hoping that if I continue to do this every day, it will continue to grow. There's probably a point. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that. I think the big thing with these platforms is consistency. And I share those numbers just to say, like, if I did it, you can do it.
Thank you.
um, yeah, it's really just a numbers game and paying attention to what people like and trying to make stuff that they want to see.
Yeah.
So
Well, cool. I mean, it sounds like you've got really interesting stuff happening, and as always, right? I mean, you're always churning and burning on fun things.
yeah, but bringing it back to CX, I think the thing I take away from there is that you can't just create a product and assume that people are going to find it.
Hmm.
The big emphasis there was not on, well, you just got to make stuff for social, but it was like everybody who presented shared kind of their frameworks and how they were thinking about creating the marketing assets that pointed to the thing that they were trying to sell, whether that was a book, whether it was a course, a membership, whatever. The person who I was probably most surprised by was a lady named Amy Landino,
Okay.
who started with a very niche YouTube channel and then kind of drifted into like general productivity stuff,
Hmm.
which her audience loved. And then she shared her whole format for thinking through like what are people going to get out of this, what should be on the thumbnail, all that kind of stuff. It was really, really good. And you can see all the big takeaways in the sketch notes that I shared. So there'll be a link to that in the show notes for people if they want to see the LinkedIn post that I wrote about this, because you can have up to 3,000 characters, I think, on LinkedIn. So
Nice.
I used every one of them.
I used every one of them. I edited some words to fit them in there, right?
Yep, exactly. Overall, though, 2 thumbs up. I think I'm gonna go again next year, and this and Craft and Commerce are probably going to be my go-to conferences. Not a huge fan of Cleveland, I have to say.
Yeah. I've
It's okay.
never been a big fan of any place in Ohio. For some reason, it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, but the conference hall was nice, and the conference was cool. It was not that big either. I think it was like 400 people total, maybe.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
And they're already planning to do it one next year as well.
I guess I'm assuming that
Okay.
they didn't have like pre-buy tickets or anything like that, but they've done it 4 years in a row now. And actually, there was somebody there who gave a talk, Jay Akunzo, about public speaking, and I want to do more public speaking. I presented at Macstock, and every time I go to Crafts and Commerce, I'm like, I want to be on that stage, but that one feels a little bit unattainable for me at the moment, we'll say.
Okay.
CEX, I walked out and I'm like, I could do that next year.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
it not like it's a shoe in. Once they see how good I am, I'm gonna, be on that stage. But just like that's my big goal, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're gonna set a goal, that would be one that I would want to work towards. And it's nothing about like the speaking ability or can I put together a good presentation at this point. It's just building up the credibility and
Yeah.
being able to say that, yeah, I'm the person to talk about this thing. So hopefully personal retreats will be something that people are actually interested in.
Oh man, I'm
And I
excited.
get asked to talk about.
I'm excited for you. Like I'm really excited for you. I hope it just flies out. Like the words just fly onto the page, and this process is just crazy seamless.
I think they will, but we will see.
Yeah, you'll know soon.
Yep. All right. Let's get into the main show if you're good with that.
Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so before we get into follow up, if you could give me just a moment for some shameless self promotion here,
Let's do it.
Cory.
Let's do
I have a personal retreat planner that I have been working on. And by the time this episode goes live, I believe you will be able to purchase it.
it.
Actually,
Nice.
I know you'll be able to purchase
Okay.
it.
All right. Good.
I've had some back and forth with Jesse at New Year, who has helped me bring this product to life. And there's a product page for it. So the link will be in the show notes. It's basically the planner that I have always wanted. Like we even got some fountain pen friendly paper for it. And it's follows my personal retreat process. So that's kind of like your quarterly plan. Then there's your weekly plans and your daily plans with the goals that they all align.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that alignment, it creates the motivation to show up every day and take action on the things that are important and the clarity to cut the things that aren't. And personal retreats are something that's very important to me. So this is basically something you could bring and do your personal retreat right in the notebook. There's an example. There'll be a video on the sales page so you can see what it looks like. And once you have that personal retreat, then you can use that as your weekly and your daily planner as you go through your day, do the time blocking and a lot of the tactics that we're going to talk about actually in today's book.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited about this. Like I said, the link will be in the show notes. I believe it's going to be $29, and we'll have a discount if you want to get a subscription, which is basically like 4 of them at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get a little bit of a discount. You'll get access to my my video course. As we talked about in the pro show, personal retreats is where I want to plant my flag.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess check out Bookworm, patreon.com/bookwormfm
Yep.
if you want to join the pro show and find out about my takeaways from CX and why I think I need to write a book on that.
Yeah, this fits in very well, doesn't it? That you're aligning the stars right now, Mike. The stars are coming together to
Yeah,
align
well,
around.
actually, I hadn't intended to go that deep on the, what's the word that you're gonna own. That's just one of my big takeaways from
Yeah,
CX.
that's great.
But yeah, the planner though, I've got the prototype and I've shown it to a couple people. Actually, I brought it with me to CEX and showed it to a couple people. And like, hey, do you use a planner? Oh yeah, I use like Michael Hyatt's Full Focus
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah,
I'm like, well, here, what do you think of this? Like, oh, dude, this is awesome.
yeah. That's great. That's great. Yeah,
So yeah, it'll finally be available and just in time for you to get it for your Q4 personal retreat.
very cool. Very cool. I'm excited to see that come out.
Me too. Me too. All right. So follow up with the action items. I had one which was to consider what am I optimizing for. I did this a bunch of times and I still don't have an answer, I don't
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Because I'm not quite sure exactly how to answer that question, but I do have some things that I've done as a result of asking that question.
Okay.
Um, so I put together a business dashboard for my creator business that I probably should have had a long time ago, where I'm tracking the number of new email subscribers every day. I'm tracking the total number of email subscribers, number of YouTube subscribers, things like that. So I have to go into the services and find the numbers, basically.
Hmm.
And I'm pulling some of those numbers from my Kit account, by the way, using Zapier and writing them to a Google Sheet. Zapier has this thing called Copilot now, where if you choose, have you used Zapier
I
much?
have, yeah. In the
Okay, so you
past,
know how,
I don't currently, but I've used it in the past.
okay, so you know how you can like select an app and it'll show you all the
Hmm.
different actions that you can take. Well, basically, what they have now is this AI feature where you can say, I don't want any of those actions. I want something that does this, and then it'll build it for you. So, getting the number of new email subscribers from Kit is not an action that is supported. You can like write something to a specific subscriber's account, but using the Copilot AI thing within 45 seconds, I had that
You're
action that I
you're
I
vi-
always wanted.
you're vibe coding Zapier is what you're doing. That's yeah,
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
exactly. And it's amazing. It's when I started, I was like, there's no way this
Well,
is gonna work.
the first thing that went
And
through
it
my head,
totally worked.
first thing that went through my head was you said you were going to pull all these metrics. And I was like, are you really going to like manually update all those metrics? And then the second thing that went through my head is,
Nope.
do these services really offer you the metric for via an API or via something else? And you've obviously found a way to do it. So that's crazy.
Yeah, they do not. But Zapier at least, because they have access to the API endpoints, can cobble something together based on some natural language vibe coding, which I was really impressed with. The reason that I use Zapier in the first place was there's an app that's part of SetApp called Numerics where you can have certain integrations, but they don't integrate with Kit for whatever reason. So I'm like, well, they integrate with Google Sheets. Maybe I could grab that number from Zapier, write it to a Google Sheet, and then pull it in. Still not 100% sold on that
Okay.
solution. The Numerics app is, it looks really nice. And if it has the numbers you need, it's great. But it's very picky about the way that it wants things formatted.
Mm,
So it's like the data it wants in a different format than Zapier really is designed to write it.
okay.
And I got to figure all that out yet. But yeah, Zapier is. I've been very impressed with the tools that are available there to basically build whatever
That's really
automation you
cool.
want. Yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. All right. So, are we ready for my follow up item?
yeah. Go ahead.
So my follow-up item was ask myself the questions at the end of the Science of Scaling book. And what I'll tell you is based on our conversation last time, you'll hopefully I'm not giving away anything too much for people who haven't listened yet. It didn't really apply a ton to my world. It was a book written for a different audience. So I thought about this idea of impossible goal, and I'm working down through these, utilize time as a tool and all this stuff. And really, like I tried to just make it with a personal goal, and it went okay, right? Like I asked these questions, and it went okay. Like it wasn't great. It was still like a decent framework to work through the questions and just think about things that I wouldn't normally think about. But overall, it was all right. Like I'm left with like a lukewarm feeling about one of the questions is, what we let go of keeping you where you're at now. Well, okay, like that was a good question. It taught me what one of the things I need to let go of. But it really wasn't for scaling. It was really just for me to achieve the goal that I want to achieve. So I can't tell you that anything like monumental came out of it, but it was a decent framework to work through those.
All right. So you haven't decided to quit your job and move to the mountains or anything yet.
Well, listen, I would move to the mountains tomorrow, Mike. Right? Like, I don't want you to ever, I don't want you to ever get confused about this. Like, yeah, like Katie would not. So Katie is the anchor. She is the rock that keeps us where we are. But no, if it was up to me, like, I mean, that we'd be over there, out west yonder somewhere, farming and figuring out. And Katie, it's hilarious. Katie tells me, she's like, you would hate that life. Like, you would absolutely hate that life. And I'm like, nah, it'd be amazing. It'd be wonderful. So, no.
Go west, young man.
Yeah. I mean, I can read books. I can read as long as I have an internet connection, right? Like
Yeah.
Starlink's great now. So, I can read books and talk to you and do other fun stuff. But no, we're still here. We're still plugging.
All right.
Yeah.
Ready to talk about today's book?
Let's talk about frogs.
All right. Yeah. So today's book is Eat That Frog by Bryan Tracy. This was, I think, the first productivity book that I ever read. We read the fourth edition, right? That's the one that you had?
Yes, fourth edition. Mm-hmm.
Okay, which is why I picked it, honestly, because the fourth edition was just released.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I first read this thinking, this book is amazing. It's completely life-changing. And I've gotten some distance from it. And I have kind of embraced a different perspective on some of the productivity advice that I've accumulated over the years, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious if rereading this, I would still think of it fondly, or if I would be like, this is complete garbage, and we need to burn this book and make sure nobody reads it again. I mean, those are the two extremes in my head.
For sure.
It sounds ridiculous, but that was my my thinking going into this. Is I'm either going to love this or I'm going to hate this.
So I have to ask you a question. In the academic world, we will get a new edition of a book, and they'll do like, certain books that are like time tested and they're like the seminal work in whatever it is. You'll be on like the 17th edition of the book. And if you look at like the first edition compared to the 17th edition, yeah, some of the figures are better. They've introduced new problems. The examples are more modern, whatever it might be. But like 95% of the book, 97% of the book is exactly the same. All we did was wrap a new cover around it, and that allowed us to charge, $160 again, compared to letting everybody buy it on Amazon used for $43. So my question for you, by no means am I thinking that Bryan Tracy did this in that way. I'm just curious, do you remember from the first edition of the book, like if you did like a compare and contrast between the two, is it a lot different? Is it a little bit different? Do you have any gauge on that, or was it too long ago since the last time you read it?
To tell you the truth, I probably have the original on my bookshelf back there, but I did not dig it out and do the side-by-side comparison. That being said, this book is only 114 pages with 2 new sections. And so what I think happened is it is significantly tighter than the one that I read.
Okay.
So as an example, the title, Eat That Frog, comes from the Mark Twain quote, where if you have to eat a live frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning because nothing worse will happen to you that day.
Exactly. Yeah.
He went through that so fast that he didn't even attribute the quote to Mark Twain, and he didn't use the full quote. It was just the key idea. So it came off to me as like, I've been talking about this for years. You don't need all of that background. Here is the core essence. And I'm kind of curious, whether you picked up on any of that. Like if you thought, there's pieces missing to this, or if you were able to grok it just the way that it was, because he covers a lot in those 114 pages.
Yeah, I knew of the book. Like I'd always heard of the book, and I knew of the concept of the, eat the frog type of thing, but I never had looked into the book. It never seemed interesting to me. The funny thing about this is it's 21 rules or principles. I forget how he words it, but it's 21 ideas that you're working through to be more productive. And all of these I've implemented at some point in my life, or I've heard about, elaborated on in much more detail in different places. So to kind of like back my way into the question you asked me, reading this, I didn't feel like he was too light or too short or needed to provide a lot more detail on any one of them. I thought like, oh yeah, I got that. Now, I might have been biased because I've heard people talk about them in more detail in other places. So if these are brand new to you, you might go, "Wow, but I don't really get that." But even in here, like you're talking about it being like tight and being concise, when he gives you the principle, he gives you a good example. At least for the most part, he gives you a good example that like, oh, I could implement that tomorrow. Like I could easily implement that
Yes.
tomorrow. I think I was not left wanting dramatically more on any of the 21 ideas.
Yeah. So that I think well we'll get into I I want to for this episode crank through all 21 of these ideas because I don't know how to like pick and choose individual ones. I think we can go through them very quickly, and if there's one that we want to kind of unpack further, we can just do it do it in line there. But I think it's intended to you read through these and you're going to pick one or two to implement. The whole subtitle that I've got on the physical book right here. See, physical books,
Mm-hmm,
Cory, for
mm-hmm.
the win.
Yeah, I don't read this. Go ahead.
Uh, 21 great ways to stop procrastinating and get more done in less time. So when you find yourself procrastinating, basically these are all tactics that you can use to overcome that procrastination. Is maybe the best way to frame this. Before we get into the individual tactics, though, there is a introduction section which I think is important. You want to mention
Yeah,
something before we get
let
there?
me let me pause you 1 second. If you had to say the like main thesis of this book or the thing that is the most important without looking at your notes, like try to just think of it outline, what or out top of mind, what would you say is the main and most important thing of this book?
I think it's actually in the introduction. I think there's more for you to do than you can possibly get done.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to get real clear on what is the most important thing to do
Mm-hmm.
and laser focus on that.
Okay, we're in the same boat then, because mine was pick the one thing that matters and don't do anything else until that thing is done. Like that, and we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it differently. It's like pick the one thing that actually matters and don't even think about anything else until that one thing is done. And I think that's a really, if you get nothing else out of the book, I think that's a really strong, helpful idea. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's get into the introduction,
Okay.
which I actually have the most most notes of any of the chapters
Me
is
too.
in the introduction.
Me too.
So he mentions new tasks keep rolling in like the waves of the ocean. You'll never get caught up with everything. You need to be able to select the most important task, get started on it, and get it done both well and quickly. I think that is the most succinct explanation of productivity that I have ever heard that I don't think anybody anywhere could possibly argue with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Has nothing to do with, well, you just got to do more. It's really just pick the thing you want to do, follow through on it.
Yep.
And then he also mentions the frog eating in this section, which I talked briefly about. There's two rules for frog eating. First one, if you have to eat two frogs, eat the ugliest one first. So if you have two things that you're procrastinating on, the one that you are most repelled by, that's what you should do earlier in the
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second rule of frog eating, if you have to eat a live frog at all, it doesn't pay to sit and look at it for very long.
Yep. Yep.
Guilty.
Same. Absolutely the same. I can tell you there are 10 tasks in my head right now that I think are ugly frogs that I put off doing every day. Like I try to not have to do those every day, but they're the important ones. They're the ones that are going to mean something and move the needle, and I just try to put those off every day.
Yep.
Like this
I completely agree.
this whole introduction was just a gigantic gut punch. And at the same time that you're being like punched in the gut of like, oh yes, I should be doing this, he's also motivating you at the same time because he's like, oh, and these are learnable skills, and you know, be the person that you intend to be, and like all this stuff. So you're feeling bad and good at the same time, and it just is like this mind bender of a first introduction chapter, not in a bad way, in like a really good way. Like I think in a really good
Yep.
way.
Yeah. Anything else in the introduction before we get into the tactics?
One of the things that I find interesting in the introduction is, and I'd have to think about this a lot harder to make it like a definitive statement, but I feel like he covers a lot of bases well. Like he doesn't. I don't feel like there's any major gaps in his argument. Like he covers it well, where he's basically saying like, hey, here's the rule, and then here's like why this matters, and then here are ways to do it, and oh by the way, you can learn this, and here are some like things to think about. Like one of the things to think about: activity's not accomplishment. Okay, that's huge in the productivity space. Like I can feel productive by checking my email every 14 seconds, but I'm not really accomplishing anything. I'm just like doing some mindless activity. My point being is I think he does a really good job at covering the bases before he launches into what really could be, and he even says it, right? Like a choppy book. It's like a choppy 100 pages of 21 things, and it's like he calls them, he says they're complete in themselves. So essentially, you don't need a thread to run through all of this. Productivity is the thread, but you don't need one. Like, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea. And I just think he does a good job on the launch covering all his bases. So at this point, I can launch into number one.
All right. So I guess we should mention before we get into the tactics, the format. So each one of these, after the introduction, has the tactic. So set the table, for example, and then a quote, the content, and then at the end there is a little box, eat that frog, where he has a couple of specific action steps that you can take. And so that means that this book is not even 114 pages. It's probably
Okay.
closer to 100.
We'll put this now, even though it should wait till the end. If you add the section at the end where he essentially like gives you the highlights of the entire book, now we even have
Yeah.
now we even have less, Mike. Like because we're telling them everybody again in a much more concise way.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just wild. Yeah.
It's the tightest productivity book you will ever read.
Yeah.
All right. So the first tactic, I guess we'll call them chapters, but basically they're tactics, and chapters typically imply like a whole bunch of text, and that's not what these are. So just
Mhm.
know that. The first chapter though is set the table. And this is really about getting clear on what is the most important thing for you to do. He's got a quote here on page 7, which I think is absolutely brilliant and important. Clarity is perhaps the most important concept in personal productivity. So if you're not clear on what the most important thing is that you're supposed to be doing, you will not be at least as productive as you would most likely like to be.
So this is it's he states it, and then you think about all the different productivity things you listen to. And whether they state it explicitly or not, like you guys on Focused talk about clarity all the time. You personally, with your PKM stuff and all that, you talk about clarity all the time. Personal retreats, clarity. The workshop that I lead, we have a whole section on clarity. Like almost everything I've ever been to about personal success or productivity or anything talks about clarity on some level. It's such a huge concept, and it's the part that if you don't get it right, everything else doesn't matter. Like you can have the best systems in the world. What's the quote about, it's the Covey quote. If I put my ladder on the wrong wall, it doesn't matter how fast I climb the ladder. you know.
He does mention that
Does
one
he?
at some
Okay, I
point in
couldn't
this
remember if he
book.
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good quote. You know what else he talks about in this first chapter?
What's that?
Goals.
Oh.
He says goals are the fuel in the furnace of achievement.
Oh, Mike, I'm so sorry for you.
Yeah, so I think I'm coming around a little bit on this. I still think that SMART goals, specifically for all the reasons shared previously, are not the thing you really want to focus on every single day
Mm-hmm.
if you want to consistently show up and take action on something. But in terms of gaining clarity at the beginning, it is hard to do that without the 7 steps for setting and achieving goals that
Mm,
he
yeah.
mentions here. So, real quickly, step 1, decide exactly what you want. Step 2, write it down. Step 3, set a deadline and sub deadlines if necessary. Really, all that's doing is forcing you to act. Step 4, make a list of everything you can think of that you are going to have to do to achieve your goal. Again, thinking on paper is another topic he talks about in this chapter. Just writing all that stuff down, that provides an immense amount of relief a lot of
And
times.
clarity. And clarity.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Because then you organize that list into a plan. That's step 5. Step 6, take action on your plan immediately. Step 7, resolve to do something every single day that moves you toward your major goal. That's the one that I think is maybe easy to overlook how profound that is. I remember seeing somebody during Nick Milo's Linking Your Thinking workshop who ran 7 different companies out of Obsidian. And what he did was he had a note for each business that he ran, and it rolled up all the tasks that he had throughout his entire vault into the tasks for that particular company. And every single day he looked at those 7 different notes for the 7 different companies and he completed the top one. And that's really, I mean, if it's eat that frog, but at an exponential scale.
Wow.
If you want to make progress though, like that's what you do.
Yeah.
You don't have to absolutely crush it this one day and then you don't have to think about it for another week.
Mm-hmm.
It's you
Mm-hmm.
consistently do something and then before long that compounds and you've achieved your goal.
Yeah, where have we read about that principle before about the 1%, right? Like do get 1% better every day and the next thing you know you're dramatically better than you were before instead of trying to make 100% gains in a week,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, that 1% rule, I think that actually comes from Atomic Habits with
Okay.
James Clear,
Okay.
but the compound effect is really
Yeah.
what you're describing there, and that lots of people
Well,
have written about.
well,
So,
and I think this is where your emphasis, and I don't mean to put that on you in like a negative way, but like your emphasis on habits, right? Because I agree. Like I think habits are the building block of continual progress. It just fits into his number 6 or number 7. Resolve to do something every single day that moves you toward your goal. Develop the habit, not necessarily of doing a specific thing every day, but doing something in that category every day. Oh, I'm going to do
mm-hmm.
something in that category that achieves the goal. I'm going to do something in that category that achieves the goal. So it's almost like I'm seeing like layers to this, where goals are one layer, habits are the more daily layer. Um, if you think about it from from like a personal retreat type standpoint, there's my daily activities, those are my habits. Then there are my weekly or sprint activities, those are my goals, and then there are different levels of goals. But I'm trying to think about that out loud.
Well, you're actually getting into the next point
Mm-hmm.
here. So let's go to number 2, plan every day in advance, because he talks here about making your list the night before
Mm-hmm.
and the different types of lists that you should have. He mentions a master list, a monthly list, a weekly list, and a daily list. So I would redefine those a little bit. The master list, yeah. And then instead of monthly, I would say quarterly, weekly, and daily. That's really what the personal retreat is built off of, is the
Mm-hmm.
quarterly, weekly, and the daily. But I think the important thing is the alignment there between those different things. Also, I have an action item from this section, which was kind of a throwaway comment that he made because this is really just about planning your day in advance. It's right in the title. But he mentions never complete something without adding it to your list
Mm-hmm.
because humans are motivated by being able to check things off. I'm so guilty
Me
of
too.
this. And I want to, even if I'm going to add it and then 5 seconds later, I'm just going to check it off. I want to start doing
I
that.
do it all the time, Mike. Like I write the thing down that I just did, and then I go check, and like I feel good about the strike through that goes through it, and like
Yeah.
the warm and fuzzy. I have a question for you though, because you might know this. I've not come across an application that helps you plan activities or actions in this way. I'm thinking about like OmniFocus. OmniFocus doesn't really do that. It's much more GTD focused. Like it is your Life HQ is probably the closest one that gets to this, where you've got these bigger tasks and then you move them into weeks and then you move them into day. Is there a task app that organizes this way?
Mm, I don't know. I think the tasks wouldn't necessarily be on the monthly list. Maybe they would be on the weekly list, but the kind of the objectives are the things that you want to keep in mind. So those would be, in my opinion, for the quarterly goals or the personal retreat, your quarterly list, the things that are on there are the big things that you're trying to make progress on.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's getting those email subscribers up to 20,000. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what we talked about last time as the impossible goal
And
for me.
where would you put that? Would you put that on the annual, the quarterly, or like where would you put that?
So that would be quarterly.
Okay, quarterly.
And then weekly would be something like publishing my big YouTube videos,
Okay.
right? And then daily would be publishing the shorts or whatever thing I could do in a day, which is going to move me in that direction. But the weekly stuff tends to be bigger. When I'm looking at my weekly list, it's things like write the newsletter, and there are a whole bunch of individual tasks that go into that. I've got to record the audio version. I've got to upload it to Ghost. I've got to upload it to Kit. I've got to get the screenshots. All of those things can be done individually. So that's where you may break those out into daily tasks, but they're aligned with the larger tasks, which are aligned with the bigger outcomes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's an app or a tool for that doesn't exist right now, or at least it doesn't exist in a way that allows you to package it cleanly from opening up the app. Like you have to work hard to figure out contexts and views and different things to do that.
Well, the problem with doing that in an app is you have to clearly define what each one of the items is. And I think if you were to do that, it's possible you spend more time fiddling with your tasks and your subtasks than you really need. So for me, I've kind of pushed back against that, where I just got to know, like, this is the thing that I'm supposed to be thinking about. This is the thing that I should be working on. And then I've got enough definition as to what actually needs to be done there that I don't feel any sort of resistance from a lack of clarity when I sit down to work on it. But I also don't want it all scripted out. For 15 minutes, you're going to do this. For 13 minutes, you're going to do this. Like, that's where you can get to you can kind of overschedule this. But this is, he mentions in this chapter, this tactic, that 10 to 12 minutes planning your day will save you 2 hours, 100 to 120 minutes in wasted time. And I think that's the key, is figuring out the intention for how you want to go about your day, even if you don't have all of the details exactly figured out.
Yeah. All right, let's hit 3.
All right. You want to kick off 3?
Yeah, 3 is apply the 80-20 rule to everything. So for those of you who are less familiar with the 80-20 rule, it's also called the Pareto principle. And essentially it says that 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. The way we use this in the engineering world is often like 20% of causes cause 80% of failures. That's the way we'll think about it from an engineering standpoint. And he applies this here in this chapter, and he gives examples of it here in this chapter, but he applies it throughout the rest of the book as well. So he basically, his main argument here is that we will procrastinate on the top 10 or 20% of the items that will give us 80-ish% of our success, or 80% of the accomplishment that we're looking for. And the interesting thing, he doesn't talk about why as much. So like there's no like psychological analysis of that. I mean, maybe the best you could get was because they're harder or whatever it is, but he just kind of says like we don't concentrate on those. So that's the gist of this book gist of this chapter is get rid of those low value activities, and really just whether you delegate them or whether you delete them or whether you just ignore them, but really focus on that 10 to 20% that cause 80% of the return.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important idea, and he kind of specifically addresses one of the things that is difficult about this, maybe, is that the most valuable tasks are often the hardest and the most complex. So if you don't spend the time thinking about them, that ambiguity means you're going to find something simpler, easier for you to do, and those small things tend to multiply. So if you know what the most important thing is, but you haven't clearly defined it, which is why I have a to clarify section on my task dashboard, then you'll just grab whatever is easy. And then by doing that, you open up, I could do this other thing that's easy. And then you get to the end of the day and you didn't take action on the things that are really valuable. So I like the 80-20 principle. I think you can take this actually a step further. So you can 80-20 the 80-20, and you really get clear on the one
Yeah.
thing that's going to provide the most value. But he defines this really well. I mean, there are whole books written on the 80-20 principle, but
Yeah.
a very great, I think there's a great summary in just a couple pages.
If he wanted to elaborate on this, right, he could have used the example of Buffett. We read about that in Charlie Munger's book about how Buffett will say, like, write down 25 things, get rid of the bottom 20, so only keep the top five, and then from the top five, only work on the first one or whatever it is, right? Like, it's that stack tier list, which is exactly what you just said, is take the 80-20, take that 20 and then do 80-20 on it again. And that's really what you should
Yeah.
care about, which is awesome. I think it's a good advice.
All right. Number 4 is consider the consequences. Dr. Edward Banfield from Harvard is a researcher that he quotes in this chapter who did 40 years of research that showed long time perspective is the most accurate single predictor of upward social and economic mobility in America. Basically, if you think with the future in mind, you will be more successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's a couple of reasons for this. Uh, I think the big thing is you connect to the why. It creates that motivation. Motivation requires motive, he mentions. The more clearly you define the potential positive impact, the more motivated you will become. And really, the goal is to have that future intent influence your present actions. He's got 3 questions for maximum productivity, which I think are pretty good. What are my highest value activities? What can I and only I do that, if done well, will make a real difference? And what is the most valuable use of my time right now?
Can I interject? If you just
Yeah.
asked the third one, like, I mean, if you just asked the third one, like you talk about the 80-20 rule, you're in my mind, you're 80% of the way there. Like, if I stopped teaching class, got done with my classes, and I hit my office and I just went, what is the most valuable thing I could do with my time right now? And I took 10 seconds to reflect on that, and then I did the thing that came to my mind, I would have a significantly more productive day than I normally do. Because I hit my office and I go, man, I'm tired, and
Yeah.
I'm worn out before my next class, whatever. Like, I don't think about what the next most valuable thing for me to do is, and then I end up getting distracted and doing something silly. I, what a cool principle! Like, what a cool
Yeah.
principle.
I do like the 3 questions though, because I think for executives specifically, which is probably his target market, you have all these things that you quote unquote have to do, right? So what are the highest value activities? That brings your list down to still way more than you can possibly
Mm-hmm.
do today. Then you ask, what are the things that only I can do? Okay, well, that eliminates half of the things on the list. So now we've got a smaller list to work from. Okay, so now what is the most valuable thing? That ultimately is where you want to get to. There's a principle in here he mentions: do first things first, and second things not at all.
Yeah, exactly. I like the law of forced efficiency. There's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do the most important things. And I think that's a
Yes.
really good framing of getting you out of that mindset of like, well, I don't have enough time to do anything or to do it all, so I'm just not going to do anything, or I'm going to like be really lazy about the things that I can do. I like the reframing of that. That's very valuable and powerful, I think.
Me too. That's really good. All right, number 5 is practice creative procrastination. This actually gets at something that I don't know if you've read the book Procrastinate on Purpose by
Mm,
Rory Vaden.
I haven't.
Okay, so that must have been before you joined
Yep.
the show,
Yeah, it
but
was.
that is basically this principle expanded into an entire book.
Okay. Okay.
And really it's just deciding what you're going to procrastinate on. So he hits on the main point there. Everybody procrastinates. The difference between high and low performers is that they choose what they are going to
Yeah.
procrastinate on
Yeah.
instead of just giving in, which I think is really brilliant. So you want to continually review your life, find those low value activities that you can abandon. Those are the ones that you want to put off, and then you want to make sure that you do the most important stuff right away.
Have you ever heard of the word posteriorities before? Because I've never seen the word posteriorities before, and I thought that was an impressive thing. So basically, posteriorities are those things that you shouldn't do. They're the ones you should intentionally procrastinate on and get rid of if you can. And I just thought that was hilarious. I thought this chapter was great.
Yeah, I'd never heard that word before, but I get what he's saying there.
Yep.
So yeah, interesting chapter. I'm not sure. Seems like these kind of go in a specific
Uh
order.
huh.
I'm not sure I would have slotted this one in at number 5, but I
So
think it's
I was
I
gonna
think it's
talk.
a good
I
one.
was gonna talk to you about that later, and maybe in style and rating. It's like they're connected. So he says that they're complete in themselves, which they are. I agree, but they are definitely connected. Like, and if you are attuned while you're reading it, you're like, oh, this ties into that last principle, or this ties into the one we talked about 2 principles ago. So there's definitely thinking in these principles and how they relate to each other. He just doesn't go to the length of saying it, like calling it out, I would say.
Yeah, they do kind of stand alone as, if he had a blog, these are individual blog posts,
Hmm.
but there's definitely some backlinks here.
Yeah, yeah. Can I do 6 because this was my least favorite
Yeah.
chapter? Okay. Yeah. So this is my least favorite chapter. It's the ABC method. So he says use the ABCDE method continually. It's a priority setting technique where basically you have A items that are very important, something you must do, and then you can, if you have sub items, you go A1, A2, A3. B items, defined as a task that you should do, but there are mild consequences. C items are tasks that are defined as something that would be nice to do, but there are no consequences at all. D is tasked for something that can delegate to someone else, and then E is something that you should eliminate altogether. I'm not going to tell you I don't think this is a good principle. I don't like the thought of doing this at all, Mike. Like, like to actually go and do this. But I think he says in the beginning of this is like this might be the most valuable or one of the most valuable things you can do with your tasks and your actions. I just don't like this one at all. It feels wrong to me, even though I think it would be crazy effective.
Well, that's the thing. I do think it would be crazy effective. And the ABCDE, I think at some point you want to drop the D's and the E's.
Yeah,
But if you're thinking, I think the intention is someone who just they have to pick up the slack for their team or their company because they're the leader and no one else is doing the thing, so I got to do the thing. And so their task just keeps growing.
mm-hmm.
And you have your list of 100 things, because I've definitely been in that place and worked with people who are in that
Yeah,
place
yeah,
more recently. And so I've heard the excuse that I gave at one point, well, it's all got to get done. There's no way you're going to get it all
yeah, yeah, yeah,
done. So you have to, for that person, if you tell them you're not going to get all done, they're going to like bristle, and all of a sudden they're combative and, well, what do you mean? So you have to give them something that they can use to approach
yeah.
that list. I think this is almost like a covert strategy to get them to accept the fact that you can't do all
Okay.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. I still don't like it. I still don't think I'm gonna do it. But at the same time, I get it. I get
Yeah,
the value.
I think you're right, but the thing he's after, I think, is to figure out what is the most important task. Well,
Hmm.
they're all most important tasks. They're all a priority. No, they can't all be a priority. So let's just do this
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And I do think there is a potential that you have a list and you get done and you're like, well, there's still a whole bunch of A's on that list. And at that point, you still got to have a hard conversation and wrestle with the fact that you can't get all those done. But I think most normal people, you go through this exercise. Oh, well, this or these 2 things, at least, these are the ones that I should be focusing on as opposed to the 20 things.
So I wouldn't have thought about this until you just made that statement right there. And maybe my problem with this is everything's at A and a B. If it makes the list, everything's at A and a B, and
Yeah.
that is fundamentally wrong. Like that
Right,
statement
right.
right there is not true. But my brain says if it goes on the list, it's an A or a B, and I don't want to come to the reality of it's not all A's and B's.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Number 7, focus on key result areas.
Hmm.
So key result areas are, for example, management, planning, organize for management would be planning, organizing, staffing, delegating, supervising, measuring, reporting. He has some examples of key result areas for sales, prospecting, building rapport and trust, identifying needs, presenting persuasively, answering objections, closing the sale, getting resales, and referrals. I think the way I would try to redefine this are like, what are the stages in the pipeline
Okay.
for you? So pipeline doesn't just mean sales pipeline, although that's probably where most people's minds will go. And that is a good example. How many people are at this stage, this stage, this stage? And the thing is, how do you get people to move from one stage to the next?
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing some operational consulting, when I just gone independent, I worked with people in identifying, what are the major stages in the customer life cycle. Step one, they got to become aware of you. So how do they do that? What platform are you showing up at and creating content for? And then what's the action that you want to take to get them onto your email list? From there, what are you doing to build trust with the individual? What is the thing that you want them to buy? Where they actually go from a lead to a customer.
Mm-hmm.
Once they're a customer, what does that journey look like? Is there a ladder of products and services that you want to offer your ideal customer? So thinking through all that stuff in terms of what is it that you do. And I think I have a general idea of this, but I could definitely get more clear on it.
Mm-hmm.
Related to that, I have an action item from this section, which is not, build all that stuff out. It is to answer the question, what one skill, if I developed and did it in an excellent fashion, would have the greatest positive impact on my career?
Mike, you're speaking my language here because, like I said, chapter 6 was my least favorite. Chapter 7 might be my favorite, and the reason why is because why am I on the payroll? Now, granted, that's very like business focused, but like, why am I here? Like, why am I the person who needs to do this thing? And if you can answer that question, I mean, like it gives you so much clarity. So we talk about tying back into these other concepts. It gives you so much clarity on what should I be doing right now with my time? How do I prioritize things? What do I rate an A? What do I rate a B? What do I rate a C? But if you don't know the answer to that question, like why am I here? Why am I on the payroll? Like why do they care about me? And then the other piece of that, you get down into the what's the one skill that if I did it in excellent fashion would have the greatest positive impact. Like if you just thought about that, the clarity that that brings, like oh my gosh, but we don't often do that. We allow ourselves to be distracted. But if you did that and you said, okay, in even if it's not like the main priority, but like in my free time, in my spare time, in that little extra time, I'm going to develop that skill. I'm going to develop that skill. Man, oh man, like how quickly you'd advance or how much progress you'd make. This chapter just killed it. Like I thought this chapter was amazing.
It's so good. And kind of the thing that is implicit here is that everything is figure outable if
Mm-hmm.
you're curious and you really want to learn, which I think is
Well,
absolutely true.
and I think this chapter is the one where he said basically go ask everybody. Right,
Yeah.
so he's like, okay, hey, Mike, what's the one skill I need to develop for Bookworm podcast? Hey, audience, what's the one skill I need to develop for the Bookworm pod? Like, go out and actually like crowdsource that and let them tell you. He's like, people will gladly tell you. Your boss will tell you. Your boss's boss will tell you, right? Like, and it just takes the barrier from like, oh, that's difficult. Like, I'm gonna have to like, I don't know how to do that. No, just let other people tell you and then think about it. You're a smart person. I loved it. Like you can hear it in my voice. Like I just loved this chapter.
All right. The next one is the apply the law of three. And the law of three says that three of your core tasks contain most of the value you contribute to your business or organization. Your rewards, both financial and emotional, will always be in direct proportion to the value of your contributions. So it's worth figuring out what are the three most important goals in your life right now. There's a lot of ways I think that you could apply this. So one of the obvious ones is if there are three things that contain most of the value, pick three things to work on every day, and everything else is a distraction.
Mm.
Um, there's a bunch of tangential stuff in here though. Like he has a bunch of questions that you can ask, kind of like an informal survey slash assessment. And actually says in there, whatever your initial response is, go with that. You'll be surprised by the accuracy of your answers when you force yourself to answer in 30 seconds or less.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I like that
mm-hmm.
forcing function. He also mentions that time management is a means to an end,
Yep.
which for a book on time management to frame it that way feels refreshing, in my opinion. He's basically saying, so we're talking about time management, but this really isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is your relationships, and 85% of your happiness is going to come from the relationships. So just like do what you got to do at work and then do what you want to do
Okay.
at home.
Mike, I live this guy's rule right here. Right? His rule is it's the quality of time at work that counts and the quantity of time at home that matters. And
Yeah.
like I would have never been able to express this, but like I try to live this. It's like when I'm at work, it's go time. Like we're putting in quality time from the time I hit the floor to the time I leave, or the time I leave the car to the time I hit the car again. And it's because I want to get home to be with my family. Like I love you all. I love my job. I don't like I'm not, it's not a matter of me trying to rush through things. It's a matter of me wanting to be the most focused I can be so I can at home with my family. And the reason why this resonates is because I think it's so true. What does work care about? Work cares about the results. That's what they're measuring. That's what they care about. What does your family care about? Your family actually doesn't care about the results nearly as much as they care about this the fact that you're there and you're hanging out and you're spending time. Now, results matter at some point there, but like if you don't do the best job coaching soccer tonight, what are your kids going to remember? Are they going to remember that you didn't do the best job coaching soccer tonight or that you were their coach for the season? Yeah, like they're going to
Yeah.
remember that you were their coach. Like it's just so it's just so good. Like I can't even explain it. It's just so good.
Yeah, it is a I definitely like that quote, and I put a little key emoji next to it, which is, this is something that is important. And my action item from this section is to work all the time that you work.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
Because I don't have the place that I can go to do the work. I do have the co-working space, and I've toyed around with that, but I can't record there.
Uh-huh.
And there's so much of my work that involves me
Yeah.
recording
Yeah.
podcasts or videos or showing up for calls, and just the variables of, is there going to be noise downtown outside the window, when I'm there, or are people going to be loud in the common space right outside my door?
Yep.
I can't deal with that, so I have a quiet place. I can close the door here, but also the minute that I open it, my family is right
Yeah,
there
yeah.
most of the days.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of opportunities for distraction if I allow them. But if I'm real clear on what my top priority is, with the main thing that I'm trying to get done in a day, then I feel like I should be able to just focus on
Yeah.
that, get it done. And then, because it's based on what I get done, the quicker I get my work done, the quicker I don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
And there's nothing to say that I can't be done with work by 1 p.m. and then just hang out with my family in
Mhm.
the afternoon. The only thing that's preventing me from doing that is me.
Yep. Yeah, and one of the things I want to make sure we state here is he doesn't go into this, but I think the things we've read about in other places or the things we've thought about in other places. So you think about like a Pomodoro timer. If you do a 45-15 Pomodoro timer, that doesn't mean that that 15 minutes is wasted time. No, what that's letting you do is that's letting you reset. That way the 45 minutes is focus time. Or it doesn't mean that the lunch outside in the sunshine for 30 minutes is wasted time. That's allowing you to be productive for when you're planning that productive time. It's more just like, okay, if I'm going to stand at the coffee machine or the water cooler or whatever you want to say and talk to my colleagues for 45 minutes, that's probably not the most effective use of my time if I want to get home to my family and spend quality time with my family. Like, and I think this is a really solid advice and solid rule to follow.
Yep. 100% agree. All right. The next one, number 9, prepare thoroughly before you begin. This is basically about preparing your environment
Mm-hmm.
before you sit down to start to work. So he talks about cleaning up your desk and eliminating the friction so that, you've got one thing that you're working on at a time. I don't have an action item from this chapter, but one of the things that stood out to me is assuming the body language of a high performer. I tend to slouch a lot, and I never thought that was a big deal. I'm gonna try not to do that as much anymore.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, that makes total sense. I've thought about that with my dress. So my version of that is the dress. It's
Mm.
like, oh, it doesn't matter what I wear. I can wear a hat. I can wear a hoodie. Yada yada. And then I think about like, no, actually, it matters when you walk into a room when the students are looking at you and you're in like a hoodie versus a button-down shirt. So, but my first action item out of the book comes out of this one is basically any flat space or any flat surface becomes a place for me to pile things. And what I'll tell you, Mike, is my work surfaces are chaos. Like they're absolute chaos. And I need to get that organized because I think I would feel a lot better walking in and I wouldn't feel as just crazy. So I need
Yeah.
that's one of mine is get your workspaces organized. That way you can prepare well.
I literally just cleaned my whole office and did that exact thing. The closet is still a mess, but my desks are clean, well, cleanish.
Yeah.
The YouTube desk here is probably the messiest just because there's a bunch of stuff on it.
Yep.
But like I have a notepad where I'm taking notes with my pen as we're going through here, just so that you don't hear me clicking on the keyboard all the time. Uh, all the ink and stuff is over there. But my main desk, which is behind the camera, that's where I do most of the writing. That one is very clean.
Yeah.
It's got my keyboard, and then the rest of it is blank. And I actually have the top down camera, so I can grab my notepad and just like doodle something if I wanted a top down camera view.
Mm-hmm.
And having everything clean so that I can actually just walk in and use any of
Yep.
the
Yep.
areas of my office has eliminated a lot of friction.
Yeah, I need to do that. That's an action item for me for sure.
All right. Let's see. The next one is number 10, if I
Yep.
recall
Yeah,
correctly. This
you want me to take it?
is, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this one's take one barrel at a time. It took me a little while to figure out why it was titled take one barrel at a time. He gives an example of what is it, running like this major race. And essentially the way you know where to go is they put like an oil barrel every like half mile or whatever it is. And all you're doing is looking for the
It
net.
was every
Is that what it
5 kilometers.
was? Okay.
So every 3.1 miles,
Yeah.
which that clicked for me then because he's talking, I think, about like running through the desert.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can barely see the next one that you gotta run
Yeah.
towards. But yeah, that's all you need. It's just that's the direction,
Yep.
the compass. We're going that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it took me a while to get that, like to understand, like, wait, why did he call it one oil barrel at a time? And then I understood, right, like what he was meaning at. But basically, he's saying get rid of the huge task. And another way I would word this is get rid of the project. Stop thinking about it as a project and start thinking about it as single actions. Something about the huge task, start thinking about it as single actions, and basically just do the next single action, the next single action, the next single action, and you'll notice that over time those single actions come together and the project gets done or the big milestone is achieved or whatever it is. And his example here that I mean just caught me, off guard and was so appropriate is health and fitness are accomplished by eating a little less and exercising a little more day after day, month after month. And it's like, it's so true. Like if you read the
Yeah.
research, you do, whatever it is, like, yeah, these fad diets, there's all this stuff. But really what you do is just eat a little bit less than you did the day before, and you're going to be fine. Exercise a little bit more than you did the day before, and you're going to be fine. And that's what's so hard.
Yep.
Like that is what's so hard about it is the consistency aspect of it.
Yeah, it's simple but not easy.
Yep.
And the major point, I agree that take it one oil barrel at a time. That feels a little bit clumsy, maybe for most people, especially because you need the story in order for that to
Mm-hmm.
make sense.
Yep.
But the main point is that
Oh, it's
you
valid.
don't need to get all the way to the goal. You just need to get as far as you can see. So
Yeah.
focus on that single action that you can take. And then he says that you can accomplish extraordinary things by just focusing on the next action. And I agree with that as long as you're clear on the overall direction that you're trying to go.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Number 11, we finally talk about habits. Actually, he talked about habits in the beginning too, I think,
Mm-hmm.
in the introduction. But form new habits, become a new person, and really, it's about habit formation, but not just getting rid of old habits, but replacing them with new habits. And then he's got 12 steps to habit formation. Identify your desire, believe in yourself, write it down, make a list of 3 or more benefits, analyze your starting point, set a deadline, make a list of all your obstacles, identify any necessary information, make a list of all the involved parties, make a plan and get started, practice visualization, decide not to quit. That feels overly complicated, but I get why he does that. And I think that for the intended audience, maybe all those additional steps, there's a good chance one of those addresses a specific pushback or concern that they may have. I don't think if you're trying to change your habits that this is the book you read.
Uh,
There's lots of better ones, but
I agree.
there is one specific thing in this chapter that I really liked,
Okay.
and that is the just for today mantra. He says that you can do just about anything new and different if it is just for one day.
Hmm.
And so if you find yourself procrastinating, because that's really the topic of the book, right? Overcoming that procrastination and doing the things that you know you should be doing, know you need to do, but you just have trouble following through and doing it, you can kind of trick yourself if you say, oh, I'm just going to do it, for this short period of time, or I'm just going to do it this once. I just have to commit to doing it this once. I don't have to commit to doing it every day for the rest of my life. And then pretty soon, you've got enough momentum that you are doing it every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think running the 12 for everything would be demotivating to me. But I think for the big ones, those things that I really want to get rid of an old habit and replace it with a new, better habit, I think this would be really, really good. I think doing essentially a negative version of this too would be valuable. So it's like I have a bad habit that I'm doing, and thinking about these, I would have to think about it more in terms of how I would talk about them. But thinking about the negative consequences of that habit, or what caused that habit, or what's allowing it to continue, and running down through this from like the reverse side of this as well would be interesting too. So overall, I'm good with it, but I would only do this on like the really big habit changes that I wanted to make.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The next one, number 12, upgrade your key skills. I think the title is maybe a little bit misleading. But the key idea here is that a major reason for procrastination is a feeling of inadequacy.
Mm-hmm.
So you should constantly be striving to get better at something. The better you are at something, the more energy and enthusiasm you have, the easier it is to overcome procrastination. Continuous learning is the minimum requirement for success in any field. Everything is learnable. And then he gives 3 steps to mastery, which I actually, so I recall reading these before, but they hit me a little bit different, I guess, when I read them this time. Read in your field for at least 1 hour every day. I don't have an action item associated with that, but I do want to start reading more about personal knowledge management in particular. So it's not necessarily books, but it's spending time on social media, probably LinkedIn and YouTube, watching other people's videos and seeing those stuff that people are making, what they're talking about, and joining in the conversation, not just going into my focus cave and making stuff.
Yeah.
The second one, take every course and seminar available in the key skills that can help you. I've been doing this.
I was gonna say, I feel like you're pretty good on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime it's like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Well, I'll figure out something,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
some program. I probably do too much of this, to be honest. But I think this is this part encouraged me that I'm approaching this at least the right way. And then listen to audio programs in your car was the last thing that he mentioned. I do have a bunch of audio programs. I guess the audio programs, that's maybe a little bit different now for me because it's not like courses or teaching tapes. It's really just like audiobooks. Podcasts to a certain degree, although I think a lot of podcasts are merely entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's fine if you don't have to just be productive and accomplish things all the time. But there's a spectrum, and with all the information that you consume, whether it is purely entertaining or it is actually useful. And there's definitely things that are more useful than others, and they're still fun for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I want to think through my my audio diet, I guess, a little bit more. But that's the key, is to continuously be developing these skills. And I do think that this is 100% true. If you develop the skills, then eventually you will be compensated appropriately by the value that you bring to the marketplace. So if you become more valuable, you can make more money.
Yeah.
You can live life on your terms.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on this chapter other than the fact that, you know, he ties this to the key results areas, which I think is important, right? If you've identified your key results areas, you've identified your areas where you add the most value, and those are the skills you're developing, I think it's a vicious cycle in a positive way, right? Like not in a bad way, but it's like or a virtuous cycle, I guess. It's a virtuous cycle that'll increase, you know, where you're at and the value that you're able to add in the future.
Yep. All right. Next one, 13, identify your key constraints. I like this one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The basic idea is that there's always a bottleneck between where you are today and any goal you want to accomplish is one major constraint. So it's worth thinking about what is holding you back. But then he directly addresses the the follow up, which is that once you eliminate that constraint, there is another one that will appear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where people don't necessarily describe that part of it all that often. And so if you keep running into roadblocks, you can quickly feel discouraged. So it's important to know, I think, that behind every constraint or choke point, you're going to find another one. I have an action item from this one of identifying the limiting factor in my business. Uh, I think I could answer this maybe right now on the surface level, being like the number of email subscribers, but I think there's maybe multiple limiting factors. And I want to think a little bit further too, where, you know, once I get to 20,000 email subscribers, what's the next limiting factor from there? And hopefully I'll have some things to share next time we record.
Nice. Yeah, I like that he has a section here in personal accountability that basically is what is it in me that is holding me back and accept responsibility. He says you need to have courage, but at the same time, there's probably something internal that's holding you back from this or that's acting as a constraint. And then I really love the quote that he gives in this chapter: "For every problem under the sun, there is a solution. There is a solution, or there is none. If there is one, go find it. If there is none, never mind it." And I just think it's really,
Yeah, that's
really
good.
clever. It's like, oh yeah, like there probably is a solution, and what's holding you back from going to, you know, to stop that, to fix that, whatever it might be. Is it laziness? Is it a lack of understanding? Is it, you know, not being willing to hire somebody to take care of that? So I think though you need the clarity of understanding what the constraints are, and this is where like kind of these ideas tie together. Okay, you know, you figured out what the constraint is. Now go address it. Go do what you need to do to address it. And if it's really that important, focus your energy on fixing that thing right now. Don't let it fester. Don't let it sit there. Fix it right now. So I like this chapter a lot too. Thinking about constraints to upward mobility.
Yeah, it's an important one. All right, the next chapter is 14. Put the pressure on yourself. And really, it's about self direction, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mentions a statistic that only about 2% of people can actually work without supervision. I wonder if that is still accurate, but I would wager that it is.
Yep. Yep.
Talks about how you increase your self-esteem whenever you go beyond the point where the average person would normally quit. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I mean, I mentioned, was it the pro show? I was talking about the YouTube stuff
Mm-hmm.
and creating shorts every day. Maybe that was, yeah. Um, so that's something that I was challenged by Doc Rock to do on one of the live calls that I attended with him, and I committed on the call because he's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this," and I don't know if anybody else followed through, but it was like, okay, I committed to doing this. I'm gonna figure out a way to do this. I'm recognizing that there are things in my creator business where if I take that approach, that naturally elevates me above a bunch of other
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people. I need to figure out what that looks like for LinkedIn. That's going to be my text-based platform of choice. And it's scary to think about, well, I'm going to show up and create something for LinkedIn every day, but I actually have committed to doing that also
Nice.
for the month of September.
Good for you.
And every time you get past one of those points and you figure something out, I feel like you do leave a changed, better person. Whether it's, you've got a system now which is going to allow you to do this. I think you probably can overcommit also, so you got to be careful with that, but kind of strategically choosing these challenges which are going to force you to change the way that you do things can be a good way to grow.
Yeah, I'm mixed on this chapter. So there's parts of this that I like. There's parts of it that I don't. Examples with that would be, he has a Thomas Edison quote in here that basically if you apply your physical and mental energy to one problem incessantly without growing weary, then you'll be successful. I like that idea. Like, can I apply my physical and mental energy to that one most important thing that I've already determined is the clarity or is my key results area or whatever it might be? He then makes a statement, though, towards the end of the chapter that if you want to have the reputation, or sorry, he says you want to have the reputation that if people want something done quickly and well, it should be given to you. I don't want that. Like, there are times when I really, really don't want that situation. Is if it's in my wheelhouse, sure. Right. If it's in my key area or if it's in the area that I'm passionate about, yes. Like, if you want it done quickly and well, come to me. But where this becomes a problem is people will abuse this. Like,
Yeah.
they will use this in a way that is not healthy to you. And then you don't have a ton of control over that. Now, will you make friends this way? Sure. Like, if your boss comes to you with 2 days notice and is like, we need this 70-page report done in 2 days, and you can turn that around, you'll probably make a friend with your boss, but you also might enable your boss to then only give you 2 days the next time that needs to happen. And that's a problem. So I'm mixed on this chapter. I do agree that putting the pressure on yourself matters, but I think that putting the pressure on yourself for me looks more of like setting ambitious goals or tying back to the science of scaling, setting those impossible goals with those impossible deadlines and saying, do this, Cory, like step up and get this done. That's where putting the pressure on yourself means more to me.
I think there's a difference between putting the pressure on yourself and meeting the expectations that someone else puts on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think when he's talking about putting the pressure on yourself, it's in direct alignment with the things that are going to create the ideal future that you've identified for yourself, and you're not just doing what somebody has asked you to do. Yeah, I think that's an important distinction.
I agree.
All right. The next one, number 15, motivate yourself into action. This is an interesting chapter, which is basically about optimism. To perform at your best, he says you must become your own personal cheerleader. Most of your emotions are determined by how you talk to yourself. He then gets into refusing to complain about your problems, and even if someone asks and says, how are you feeling today, even if you feel like garbage, you're going to say, I feel great. And I struggle with this one.
Okay.
On the one hand, I think what he's saying is absolutely correct. There is power in your words, and you don't want to just let your future be determined by a temporary constraint, right? Especially if it's linked to something so fickle as how you feel.
Yep.
Like, you can't necessarily trust your feelings. I also don't know what to do with that, though, in terms of, like, you don't want to just ignore that stuff. Like, how do you actually deal with it positively? I don't know exactly what that means, but I do have an action item out of this chapter: to become an optimist.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good.
I don't know exactly what that means. He mentions optimists have 4 special behaviors, though. So maybe this is, my action plan here. They look for the good in every situation. They always seek the valuable lesson in every setback or difficulty. They always look for the solution to the problem. They think and talk continuously about their goals. So it's really not just, if I were to summarize this, you're not really focused on where you are or what you're going through. You're focused on where you're going.
Yeah. I think the action item I would give to you on this one, you didn't ask for it, but here you go. It would be like, ask yourself the question, what would the optimist think in this situation? Right. So something happens to you and you go, what would the optimist think in this situation? Oh, well, at least I learned a ton. Right? What would the optimist think in this situation? Oh, well, I made a good friend. Like in that terrible situation, I at least made a good friend, right? Like, something along those lines. So what would the optimist think in this situation?
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to my action item. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton out of this one. Basically, I agree that, emotions are drive a lot of this, and we need to be able to have self control within our emotions, and that'll help us. And the positive mental orientation is better than a negative one. I think anybody who's ever had a
Yeah.
depressive state can tell you that that's valid at face value. So yeah, nothing major in this one.
All right. The next one is make technology work for you. Technology can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And really, you should treat your technology like a servant, not a master. I think that's the gist of this
Hmm.
one. He does talk about detaching from it on a regular basis, which I think is important. But there's nothing groundbreaking here for me because I've already have my device modes
Yep,
and things optimized for what I want to be doing when I pick up the devices and things like that. So
I would agree. We can fly through this one. Basically, it's don't be distracted by your technology and have it do things for you. I think interesting if I'm remembering correctly, this is where he mentioned AI. I can't remember if this is the area where he
well,
mentioned
this is
AI.
the one where AI would fit. I don't have any notes on that though, so I can't
I,
remember.
I don't either. He mentioned AI once though. That's how I was like, oh yeah, this is the updated version because he wouldn't have said AI in older versions of this book. Um, but just I agree with this. Like like have technology. If your technology isn't working for you, you're probably working for it, and that's a good way for you to think about life.
Yep. All right. So the next one is focus your attention. And this is really about just focus on the thing that matters.
Hmm.
He talks about multitasking, how it's a myth. It's really task shifting. It was nice to hear him talk about that. And then responding to the notifications gives your brain that hit of dopamine, but it really doesn't make you more productive. He tells you to check your email only twice per day, which I think is great advice. And then he has a list here of how to double your productivity.
Hmm.
And this sounds a little bit sensational, but I think it's probably accurate.
What I
So
what
plan each day.
Good.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell him the plan, and then I'll make my statement.
Okay, so plan each day in advance, work nonstop for 90 minutes, give yourself a 15-minute break, and repeat. I think that's actually a pretty good way to double your
What
productivity.
I love is he might be one of the first people that is actually given an appropriate amount of time for the working session. Most people are like, oh, 20 minutes on, or 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, or 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off. And it's like, no, like that's just too short, right? Like it's just too short. We got to go longer than that. So he actually hits it. He says 90 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, 90 minutes is an appropriate amount of time. You get into flow, you're doing it, you get tired at about 80 minutes. So then when 90 rolls around, you've wrapped up whatever you're doing. Like, I'm like, yeah, like, so that was my biggest takeaway is I was like, Bryan Tracy, you validated me in terms of the longer working window on those focus time attention thing. I'm kind of tired of being told, not to check my email and, like all the dopamine stuff. I agree with it. I think it's absolutely right. Yeah, just kind of old story at this point.
Yeah. Well, the shorter durations, that's kind of the idea behind the Pomodoro
Hmm.
method, but I agree that that's one of the things, especially high achievers struggle with is you mean I have to stop
Hmm.
after 25 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. And if you're in flow and you actually want to be productive, like you keep going.
Exactly. Yeah.
90 minutes feels accurate. Now I don't know how actually applicable that is because your day is going to get chopped up with meetings and things like that, but that would be the ideal version
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
All right, the next one, slice and dice the task. And there's two methods that he talks about here for basically breaking down bigger things, the salami method and then the Swiss cheese method.
Love it. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, so the salami method, you're slicing off a very thin slice of the thing. That's what you're going to work on. And then Swiss cheese is where you're poking holes in them with small time increments. I think these are helpful metaphors, maybe if you find yourself procrastinating on something big that you need to do. I don't think I will use either of
No.
these. You said you love it, so are
Oh,
you planning on
I
doing it?
just love the metaphor. Like I absolutely
Yeah.
love the story, the picture. But no, I'm probably not gonna. The one I would use more is the Swiss cheese one, where okay, it's big. Like I'm just gonna try to like knock off a little bit of a little piece of this. Now I actually think it's much more. Um, a better picture is like knocking off the edge as opposed to slicing a hole through it. But whatever. Like
Yeah.
teach their own.
I think I agree with that, but yeah, you get the point. And this is, I think, where we're starting to see some diminishing returns in terms of the
Yeah,
value
yeah.
of the exact ideas that he's presenting.
Well, and I think the bigger idea out of this one, and the one that means more, is this urge to completion or this compulsion to closure concept that he
Yes.
brings into here. Where, and I can tell you that from personal experience, this is real. The activation energy for me to get started on a task can be really really high, but if I pick up the smallest little piece of that, then I'm like, oh, okay, that was fun. And then I just keep going. And next thing you know, I've got 5 or 10 different things knocked off of that big, huge task. I think that's the bigger takeaway for me. It's not the specific methods in this section.
Yeah, agreed. All right. The next one is to create large chunks of time, which you have done if you are already using his advice to double your productivity,
Double
because 90
thumbs up.
minutes is a pretty big chunk of time.
Yep. Double thumbs up on this
um,
one.
yeah, so essentially, he talks about scheduling blocks of time for things that are important. So, time blocking for the win. He mentions that you should use a planner and you should make every minute count,
Yep.
which I completely agree
I,
with.
I
In fact,
agree.
I've got a planner if you want to do that.
I completely agree with this, and we can move on to 20.
I'm Cory Ixon, and I approve this
Yeah,
message.
exactly. And I'll stamp the screen.
All right.
I'll take 20. So
Okay.
just to give you a break. So 20 is develop a sense of urgency. Basically, that he makes the statement that high performing men and women are action oriented. So he gets into this idea of being action oriented or doing the thing now. Talks about the momentum principle of success. That although it may take a tremendous amount of energy to overcome inertia and to get started, but it takes less energy to keep going. So that's a fairly kind of understandable concept. And you want to be, again, he doubles down on this idea that you want to be the kind of person who does good work and does it efficiently, or does good work and does it quickly. So basically, this idea of this sense of urgency comes in. What's interesting to me about this is I reflect on the different work environments that I've been in. Academia doesn't always have a big sense of urgency. Like there are times when academia is, we move at a different pace, and when you tie that with business, so when I do university industry partnerships, industry always moves faster than we do, and they always want to move faster than we do, so they have a massively faster sense of urgency, or a massively higher sense of urgency than we do, and it becomes a conflict at some point. Like you really notice it. You're like, oh, industry wants us to move in like 2 weeks, and our typical timeline is a semester, or half a semester, or whatever it is, and you see the people butt heads about that. So
Yeah, I liked a couple of things from here. He talks a lot about flow in this chapter.
mm-hmm.
And one of the interesting things for me is that you can trigger flow through a sense of urgency. So obviously, you don't want everything to be urgent all the time, but interesting to think about that as a specific tactic to get into a state of flow, because that's the goal, to get into flow as often as you can. um, he also mentions that the faster that you move, the more energy you have. And I think that's probably true. And so if you haven't started on anything, then even something small feels like a Herculean task, and it's hard to, I can't even, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if you are moving quickly, some of that stuff, maybe it's, oh yeah, I can do that quick. And so I've noticed this myself in the last several months. So I think there is definitely some truth to this, and I don't know exactly where I land on the optimal uh, amount of drive you should have related to urgency, but I like the idea
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
All right, and then the last one, if I am counting right,
You are.
is a single hand every task and really just focus on one thing at a time.
Yep. Yep.
Mentions that by focusing on only one task, you decrease the amount of effort required to complete it by up to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, he mentions that you should probably refuse to stop until it's done. I think that is some great advice.
I think this is the hardest one for me, but the one that would have the largest impact on my life. If I would stop trying to run multiple tasks at the same time, or if I would stop trying to balance so many things, one of the challenges I have is this is a direct conflict with the work that I do at the university, right? Like, I mean, so, and that's kind of like externally put on me. And I have to figure out a way to do this, right? So it's going to probably look like, time blocking in a better way. How do I time block in a way to where my teaching activities, I'm single minded, solely focused on the teaching. But then my creative activities, I'm solely minded on the creative activities. Where the big hurdle that comes in is office hours. So office hours are often a time where I can work on something else, whether it's prep for the next class or whether it's some creative project or something like that. But you never know when a student's going to pop in. And when they pop in, you have to stop what you're doing. So it immediately breaks down this single-minded or the single-handed idea. So this is one of the ones, this is actually a second action item for me, is like, I need to rethink my schedule. I need to rethink my workday. I need to rethink what I'm doing. Does it mean that my schedule shifts to where the single-minded tasks are in a block that's more protected, or that the ones that the most important ones that I want to be single-minded are in the protected block to where they aren't as susceptible to people coming in and messing around with them. So that's an action item for me out of this one.
Right. Nice. All right. And then there's two more sections to the book, but I think at least the first one we can cover here pretty quickly.
Yep.
The next part of the book is a discussion and action guide. And this basically restates all 21 tactics with some follow-up questions. So if we were to have a discussion about this, we're going to start a Eat That Frog book club. We could tackle one of these a week, for example. Set the table is decide exactly what you want. Clarity is essential. What are your short-term and long-term goals? Right. So that is the big takeaway from that particular section. And there's little one-liners and questions associated with each one of these. I don't think this particular section is I'll just say I don't think it's all that valuable. I think the real value comes from the action boxes where they say at the end of every single chapter with Eat That Frog, and they've got a couple different steps. I feel like those are better. They offer a little bit more detail, but the things that are in that action discussion guide are kind of like a simplified version of that. In terms of you as an individual listening to this podcast, applying the principles from the book, I don't think there's a whole lot in this action discussion section.
I would agree. It was a summary with maybe a little bit more, but I don't think it added that much to the book.
Yeah, the next section though is new, and I think there is some good stuff here, and that is the 4 accelerators. So the 4 accelerators here are calendar organization, productivity, self-discipline, and task completion. And it's really a bunch of numbered lists for things to keep in mind. If you really want to accelerate your calendar organization, for example, set clear goals for yourself every day, time block your schedule, prioritize your tasks, work on high priority tasks during your peak productivity hours, limit meetings whenever possible, be patient with yourself, incorporate breaks and self-care. That'll give you an idea for what the other ones are like. We don't need to run through all of them. But I think if you are just wanting, and this sounds stupid because the book is so short, but people who love services like Blinkist, where they just want the summaries, like just give me the information.
Yeah.
Information is not going to solve your problem, but whatever, you do you. This is where you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because these individual steps are really great. And if you applied them, you would transform your life. You're not going to because there's not enough there.
Yeah.
But there's the information.
This is where he takes the 120-page book and he makes it a 200-page book because he just flushes out these 4 extra sections at the end. But he didn't do it. He was just like, and
Yeah.
boom, like here you go. Here's like I don't even know how long it was. I don't remember how long it was, but they were super short. Each of those last little bits, and
Oh, let me look it up. So it's pages 108 to 115.
it's the all four of
7
them,
pages,
all
8
four of them.
pages. Yeah,
Yeah,
all four of them together. That whole section. Yeah.
but there's the rest of your 200-page book right there, and he was just like, nah, like I'm good, and I'm not gonna like. I mean,
This is the fourth edition. I'm done.
but he's in the fourth edition. Like I don't remember how many of these have sold, but it's like a popular book. Like obviously it wasn't necessary. I mean, and he's done
Yep.
well with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm actually happy with that decision. But all right. So action items. That
Mhm.
is the entire book. And we talked about it longer than you could actually listen to the audiobook version, probably.
I hope that's not true.
uh I mean, there's so much in here though that there are entire books written on a lot of
Uh-huh.
this stuff. And I think if you just read this book, you're missing out. Like a lot of the value comes from that context. I didn't realize how profound this book was first time I read it, but not stellar rating quite yet. So action items, I've got several.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Going to,
what happened to you? I mean, you just went crazy on this.
yeah, yeah, and they're not the ones that I had the first time that I read this too, so that's interesting. They're all different. Never complete something without adding it to my list. Answer what one skill, if I developed it and did an excellent fashion, would have the greatest impact on my career. Work all the time that I work. Identify the limiting factor or factors in my business. Become an optimist. And you added some context to this. What would the optimist think?
Yep.
Actually, no, that's it. So I've got 5 of them, and
Mm-hmm.
then you've got a couple.
Yeah, so I've got to get your workspace organized, and that's part of preparing well. And then how can I single handle more tasks, right? How can I set up my schedule or reprioritize things to where when I'm doing a thing, I'm solely focused on that thing?
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Style and rating.
style and rating. I've been dreading this moment. Um, I I don't know what to make of this, to be honest, because there is a lot of really great stuff in here, but it's very short. It's kind of intentionally surface level. That being said, I think it's kind of absolutely brilliant in the way that he condensed it and the simplicity of the focus. I think if you were really going to nitpick the content of this book, you could probably shave off between 5 to 7 of these
Okay.
tactics.
All right.
But I have no problem with the 21 that are there. And I really love the style of this. There's a quote at the beginning of every chapter, which by looking at those quotes, I realized, I forget which chapter it was, but I've mentioned this Dwight Eisenhower quote and I could never put my finger on where I heard it, where plans are worthless, but planning is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
everything. And then he talked about that quote in this book, and I realized, oh, this is actually where
Yeah.
I heard
Yeah.
that. um, I think that the fourth edition of this is the best version of it. Like I mentioned, he cut out all the mentions of uh, Mark Twain, and like that's a quote that's attributed to Mark Twain, which is really where the title of the book comes from. But he isn't reframing it and claiming credit for it or anything like that. He's just removed all of the filler from this book.
Mm. Yep. All of it.
This is so different than your standard productivity book.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could arguably take these 21 different chapters and create multiple videos
Mm-hmm.
on different aspects of each one of these
Yep.
chapters and have a 12-hour video productivity
You
masterclass.
could. Absolutely, you could.
But that's not what he did. He wrote a very short book that you can probably finish in one evening if you're not taking any notes on it.
Yep.
I mean, this is one of the biggest mind maps I think that I have created, and it's one of the shortest books that we have ever read.
That's amazing.
So, I think this is a 5-star book. I think it holds up. Um, I think it hit me a little bit different this time than it did when I initially read it.
Okay.
But I also think that it is just as valuable having read it this last time as it was when I first picked it up all those years ago.
Okay.
I think it's quite possible that depending on where you are in your productivity journey, there will be something different in here every single time that you pick this up where you're like, oh, that's really good. That's speaking directly to my situation. He's reading my mail.
We were.
uh,
Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. So like I think in terms of who's this for and who do I recommend it for, like literally everybody should pick this one up. It worst case scenario, you spend 2 hours reading a book and you're like, yeah, I didn't really get that much out
Yeah.
of it. But if that's the case, you're probably not listening to Bookworm anymore.
No, I would agree. I would agree.
So yeah, 5 stars.
All right. So I don't know why I feel strange about this, but this is easily a 5-star book. Like it's not even close. It's not even a question. It's 114 pages. The whole like last section is kind of like, well, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point. And it was 7 pages, right, long, but they're good points. He somehow threaded like the perfect needle of I'm going to give you just enough in most of the right areas. I would say like for me, 18 out of the 21 really hit, right? Like the other 3 were just like, oh, okay, whatever. But like 18 out of 21, that's good. Like that, I mean, that's a good hit rate. So if everybody gets 15 plus of these that are valuable to them, that's great. I mean, that's a great thing because the other ones, even if they're not that valuable, they're not that long. So you just like, you blaze through and you go to the next one. But then he repackages it at the end of each chapter in a way that's even more concise and usable. Then he repackages it at the end in a way that's even more concise, although I would argue a little less usable, but even more concise at the end. Mike, like this is it's very very difficult for me to say this isn't the first productivity book I recommend to somebody that's new to productivity. Like
Yeah.
and I'm not going to tell them it's the best. I'm going to tell them like this is the one. Like if you want to make immediate gains and you want to become more productive tomorrow, go read this book tonight because you'll be able to read it tonight. Like, and even if you can't read
Yeah.
all of it tonight, you'll be able to apply the things you read tomorrow. Guaranteed. Like
Yes.
guaranteed. And then what you'll do is you'll use this book as a jumping off point to say, "Oh, I want to think more about motivation." And boom, you'll go and you'll do the other motivation book. Or I want to think more about habits and boom, you'll go run the other habits books. Like I just think this is the I just found the word, Mike. This is the productivity primer.
Yes.
It is the book that says like, hey, you want to learn about productivity? Eat that frog. That's your book. Like that's your book to start off.
Exactly.
And when you have that so clearly in your brain, it has to be a 5-star book. Like it can't not be a 5-star book, even though
Yeah.
it's 114 pages. And you and I could read this in our sleep because we've read enough books at this point and we've read enough long, complicated books. And this is by no means a long and complicated book. It's a very straightforward, very actionable, very, you know, uh, every person book. Like that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. So 5 stars.
Yeah. So I need to before we close out this
Yeah.
section, I have to share this is the 4th edition, right?
Yep.
So this is like the ideal update. I need to share the other end of this spectrum.
Okay.
And I hesitate because I don't really like shaming um shaming books.
Okay.
But I will say that when I first read, because you mentioned this during the show, GTD, getting
Mm-hmm.
things done,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you remember when the updated version of GTD came out?
No, not at all. I don't remember any of it.
Okay, so I was working for agent efficiency at the time, and we heard it was coming. Oh, this is going to be amazing because he's updating it to talk about new tools and things. Because the previous version was all about Evernote, right? And there's other stuff out there now, and it's going to be updated because that was his whole thing. Was I'm going to update this to reflect the current state of the technology. You know what he did? He just removed all discussion of the tools, right? So what ended up happening was instead of getting tighter and more direct, like
Mm-hmm.
Eat That Frog did,
Mm-hmm.
it got more general
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more loosey goosey and like, well, you could apply it lots of different ways. Like that's not what you need
No.
from these types of books. And I would call that out specifically because I think that's probably the other one that people think of when they think of productivity books is
Mm-hmm.
like Getting Things Done and Eat That Frog. Those are probably two on the high on the list of if you're just going to search for productivity books, what are the best
Yep.
ones? I'm just going to read them. This is so anti getting things done. Like not at all like that book.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And if you had to pick one, this is the one. There are some good things in getting things done. I
yep.
mean, it's successful for a reason. David Allen is successful for a reason. But this is not that. This is apples and oranges comparison.
And I will say that it's this good and it's got a terrible name. Like I understand Eat That Frog. Like
True.
I get the story, like all of that makes sense. Any other name, like I mean, any other productivity
Yeah.
associated name would have made more sense. Although it's catchy and it's clever, and people go, "Hey, you should read that book called Eat That Frog," and everybody's like, "What? What? Eat that frog?"
Yep. It's true.
So yeah, but your point's well made. Like I get. I think he tightened it up, or I mean, I don't know the original one, but from the sounds of it, he tightened it up and he did a good job on it. So
Yep, absolutely. All right. So let's put Eat That Frog on the shelf. What's next, Cory?
alrighty, so the next book we're looking at is called Published: The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold. You know, Mike and I are both interested in creating content. Mike and I are both interested in this idea of publishing. He's published before. I've attempted to publish before and done it unsuccessfully. So we're going to read a book that's about um, moving from the thought of writing a book to actually trying to write a book. It's the second edition, I believe, is the version, the latest version. Mike, can you correct me if I'm wrong on that? I think it's the second edition. It's from 2021. So if you're looking for it, it's by Chandler Bolt. And I'm just looking at getting some advice on what it's like to go from an idea the whole way through to trying to sell some copies of something. And I'm not going to commit to this yet, but Mike, I'm going to like soft commit to talking more about this. I would love to set a deadline, right? Set one of these impossible goals like we read
Yep.
for before, of like actually having a book written, come the end of the year, something like that. Like
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun for us to do that and see what it's like. I mean, we read enough books. We may as well be in the author community. You already are, right? So I'm not taking that away from you, but
Mm,
yeah, you are.
I don't know.
You are. You are. You are. So the next one is
So,
the
by
next.
the way,
Go ahead.
I need to find, you mentioned a second edition. I actually don't have the second edition and I can't find the second edition. So, looking on Amazon, it's like this reddish color 2016. If you've got a link to the book that you're reading, that would probably be
Okay.
be good.
Okay. So hold on. I need to make sure I'm clear
Wait,
about
no,
this.
this is the second edition. You're right, but
Okay.
it is publication date 2016, so it is a little bit older
Okay. So
still.
the Kindle one was released in 2021. So I
Yeah,
read.
see, I'm looking at the Kindle version and I see okay, released December 2021, but if you look at the actual publication date, it's 2016, right?
Yeah. Publication date's 2016. So
Okay.
we're reading
Whew.
we're reading the same book. Yeah. Yeah. We're reading the same
Good.
book. And again, Mike, I don't think they're going to be that far off. So we're going to be okay.
Yeah, true.
We're going to be okay. All right. So that's the next one. Mike, what is going to come up after that?
Okay, so I have maybe the other end of the spectrum in terms of what we just read. Do you know who Chris Gillibo is?
I feel like you've mentioned the name before, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay, so Chris Gillibo is famous for the $100 startup, and he was one of the people I think behind the World Domination Summit conference back in the day in
Okay.
Portland.
Okay.
He has a book which has blurbs from Gretchen Rubin, Cal Newport, Susan Cain, Daniel Pink, and it is called Time Anxiety.
Nice.
The Illusion of Urgency and a Better Way to Live.
Okay.
And I just picked it because I am a fan of Chris Gillibo. I've had this book for a little while, and I think it's an appropriate follow up to Eat That Frog. It was also spurred by a Cal Newport podcast episode that I was listening to today as I was biking before we recorded, where he was responding to some op-ed somewhere about how you've really just got to hustle when you're in your 20s if you want to be successful later on in life. Like you got to front load the front load the hustle, basically, like
Mm-hmm.
the work
Mm-hmm.
that you got to over index for work. You got to sacrifice sleep, and Cal was kind of responding to
Okay.
that.
All right.
And there's an element of truth to that, but he doesn't define what success really is. Yada yada yada. So I don't know, just a topic that's kind of
Awesome.
interesting to me.
I'm looking forward to it. That's exciting.
All right, you got any get books?
Yeah. So I'm doing a kind of like a mini seminary at a local church, and I'm reading a lot of theology books right now. So the Gap book that I'm reading right now is called Delighting in the Trinity, and it's about the Christian faith and the Trinity and God being the Trinity and those type of things. So not really related to what we talk about on Bookworm, but that is the Gap book of the moment. How about you?
All right. I do have one. So I believe we are going to be talking to Donald J. Robertson for the Focus podcast at some point. And he wrote How to Think Like a Roman Emperor. So I'm going to be reading that before we talk to him,
Okay.
even though it is about my favorite topic, Stoicism.
Stoicism. Yes. Congratulations, Mike.
Yeah, all good. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We really appreciate your support. If you are listening to the podcast and want to leave it a rating and review, that would be great. Helps other people find out about the show. If you want to support the show directly, you can do that by becoming a pro member. You can find out more information at patreon.com/bookwormfm. $7 a month gets you a couple of perks. We've got a pro show that has it's an extended podcast with a special section, no ads. There's also a bootleg that gets released right after we record. So typically you get the episodes about 2 weeks early if you download the bootleg. You also got a bookworm wallpaper. So a couple of things that we can provide just to say thanks for supporting the show. We record these live, and if you are a pro subscriber, you get access to the private YouTube link when we go live, so you can join us recording live and engage in the chat if you want. If you want to join those lovely folks who are actually giving us money to keep the lights on, we really appreciate it. And as mentioned, you can find out more patreon.com/bookwormfm.
If you want to recommend a book, we are always taking recommendations and looking over that list. There will be a link in the show notes to recommend a book for the show. Otherwise, let's pick up Published, The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies by Chandler Bolt, and let's read that one for next time. See you all soon.
All right.
The
We did
live.
it.
If you're on the live stream, thank you all for coming and joining us. I'm going to close it out now.